of 3 rifles. The 3 preeminent rifles for Dead Frontier. I won't be reviewing every rifle, obviously, just the cream of the crop, so to speak. At any rate, I'm going to be operating under a 99% damage boost, so excuse my daughter in the background, but so your mileage may vary. We'll start off with using the Dawn Carbine. With a 99% damage boost, it still doesn't hit the 800 damage per hit mark that you really would like to see for places like Raven Ridge, particularly the prison or the Extractus chemical plant. However, its rate of fire is definitely great. I have 100 dexterity, and I do have the shrimp plant equipped. The shrimp plant, of course, is the symbiont implant, so you'll see that I'm firing a little bit faster than you might. However, I feel like this is pretty indicative of the performance of this rifle. Next, we'll switch to the Rusthound, the old tried and true. It's doing just under 1,000 damage per hit, and you can see it really takes care of business almost as quickly as the Dawn Carbine. One thing I will say is it fires a little bit slower, might not have the same level of armor penetration for places like Death Row, but I don't think it really matters. You're still going to be killing most enemies in one hit, except for the 1,000-armed individuals down there. Alright, now let's try the Vindicator. This weapon has a lot of hype going on around it right now, and you'll see why in just a moment. Alright, so you can hit multiple enemies at the same time. It does have a piercing effect. At nearly 100% damage boost, it's doing over 1,100 damage per primary hit, which is exceptional. It really is. Once again, though, it's not going to kill everything in one hit in Death Row. It should take out the 1,000 arms in 2 hits, the same as the Rusthound, same as the Carbine. It will, at this damage boost percentage, perform somewhat better than the Dawn Carbine in some instances. It does fire a little bit slower, as you can see, and it has, I should say, a smaller clip size. But around second on bunker, obviously, this doesn't really matter so much. If your reloading is a little bit low, the Vindicator might not be for you, just because in some situations it could get awkward. Now, let's go fight a boss really quick. How about we do that? So far, I feel like the Rusthound is nearly as good as the Vindicator. Doesn't do near as much damage per second, of course, or damage per hit, but it still functionally operates much the same, of course. Okay. Over and over. Okay. Now, that's where I'll say that the Vindicator clearly seems to shine, is boss hunting, especially and in particular when you're fighting multiple enemies. It seems to do an incredibly good job just chipping away at their health, even if you're not hitting all of the enemies with the primary shot, of course. Switch back to the Dawn Carbine. Dawn Carbine is an incredible rifle. I'm not gonna lie, it's Its fire rate is awesome to behold. For fighting around DR or Raven Ridge, you're definitely going to want a little bit more than 100% damage boost. It's not required, but it definitely helps you to clear a room a bit faster. Now switching to the Rusthound. The Rusthound hits like a truck. That's its main purpose. And you can see that it clears out enemies pretty quickly. It does really good damage. However, and let's switch to the Vindicator, it doesn't quite have the stopping power of the Vindicator, and it doesn't quite have the utility of the Vindicator. I will give the Vindicator more credit than I was originally anticipating. It not only hits like a truck, but it has that additional utility, hitting multiple enemies at once, and doing significant enough damage while hitting multiple enemies at once to actually chip away at health. Overall, my thoughts are that if you can afford a Vindicator and you really want to have a hype weapon and you're doing it for prestige, then sure, the Vindicator is a perfectly good weapon, of course. However, if you're looking to be practical, you can go for the Rusthound and you will not suffer too much loss of function. It does really well in its own right. And again, unless you have over, like, I'm going to say 110% damage, none of the rifles are really going to be hitting for that 1200 damage you need to put down a 1000 arm in one hit. So really, it's up to you in terms of practicality and also how you're going to be particularly using the weapon. If you're going to be going down to DR, I don't think it really matters too much. You may clear a room slightly faster with the Vindicator than the Rusthound, but I don't think it makes too big of a difference. Where it does make a big difference, again, is boss hunting. So if you're somebody that likes to boss hunt a lot, you have high enough speed boost that you can keep out of the way of bosses and you can rely on your rifle to efficiently gun them down, then yes, a Vindicator is going to be the better option, but I would argue only marginally. It's especially if you're fighting one boss at a time, it's not a huge difference in terms of how quickly you kill the enemy, and its fire rate is about the same, so it's not like you're going to be in a situation where having the Vindicator fighting a flaming Black Titan, for instance, would really make much of a difference. That's pretty much my review. I realize I didn't speak to the Dawn Carbine. The Dawn Carbine is amazing. I highly recommend it. It is one of the best rifles in the game. I use it quite often. That said, I think that unless you have like 110, 120% damage boost, it doesn't really perform as well as the other two rifles just because of the amount of damage it does per each shot, even if it fires faster. Okay, I think that's where I'll leave it. Buy a Vindicator if you have the money and if you're interested in prestige and you really care about killing bosses a little bit faster. Otherwise, grab yourself a Rusthound, use the extra money for a better armor or for implants. And if you really want prestige, then get a Dawn Carbine if you have the levels or other access to it, of course. That's it. Thank you so much for watching.